Hi everybody and welcome to Airbrush Artistry. My name is Douglas Hartman and tonight I'm going to do a video on the two airbrushes that I used for the last art piece that I did, the half-orc barbarian. And it raises the question, especially to a beginner in airbrush art, do you need a detailed airbrush for the artwork that you do? Well, continue along with this video and we'll get right into detail about that. So hang on folks and we'll get into some airbrush shenanigans. Alrighty. Hi everybody, welcome to Airbrush Artistry. My name is Douglas Hartman and tonight we're going to talk about the question of, especially as a beginner, do I need a detailed airbrush? And what is a detailed airbrush? So if you've watched my previous videos, you know that the main airbrush that I used was the Iwata HPC Plus, and it comes with a 0.3 millimeter needle and nozzle setup. With this guy here, they call it the workhorse. Okay, you can get fine lines with this airbrush with a 0.3 millimeter needle and nozzle setup. Okay, now I also used my Iwata Takumi. It has a 0.18 millimeter needle and nozzle setup. The realization, though, is I didn't need to use this guy, okay? The artwork that I was working on was an extra large t-shirt that took up the whole front of it. So the fine lines that I was able to get with this guy right here was plenty small enough for the detail work on that piece. So one of the things you want to ask yourself is, what kind of artwork are you going to be doing? Are you going to be doing large-scale t-shirt pieces like that, or larger murals, or larger illustrations? You may not even need a really fine detail airbrush. Now, when I first started off, my very first airbrush was this guy right here, the Pache Talent. Now, it came with a 0.28, 0.38, and a 0.66 needle and nozzle setup. I'm glad it did, because my first day using it, I bent one of the needles and I had backups. Quick tip, if you're starting out and you're buying your first airbrush, highly recommend go ahead right off the bat when you order your airbrush, add a needle and a nozzle, because at some point you're going to bend it. Okay, it's going to happen. All right, trust me, I did it. And then I wondered, you know, I was doing more research, watching more videos, reading reviews from airbrush forums on the internet, and you know, curiosity got the best of me, you know, and I was like, well, I wonder what it would be like to have a detailed airbrush. And so my next purchase was a Harden and Steinbeck Evolution. Okay, and if you're just starting off and you're not quite sure what size needle and nozzle setup you might want to go with, I highly recommend an Evolution for the versatility. All you have to do is swap out the needles and the nozzles. You have one airbrush. You can have a 0.15, 0.2, 0.4, and a 0.6. Now I know that they've come out with the new Ultra, and they also came out with the new Evolution. And so with the Evolution, if I'm not mistaken, instead of a 0.2, it is now a 0.28. And with the 0.4, I think it's 0.45. And so, but you still are able to have the 0.6 and a 0.15 as well. Great versatility, okay? But again, ask yourself, do you need a really, really fine detail airbrush? You may not, okay? Another thing to consideration is, with a finer needle and nozzle setup, you really need to pay attention to your paint dilution. You really need to over-reduce your paints for the paint to flow well, okay? I learned really quickly with that Harden Steinbeck, with a 0.15 millimeter needle, you really, really need to reduce your paints for better flow. Now remember, when you're reducing your paints, you're also going to dilute the vibrancy, okay? you're watering it down essentially. So the black isn't going to be as dark black. That vibrant red is not. It's not going to be quite as vibrant. It's kind of like, a good way to illustrate it is, if you're a hardcore coffee drinker, you drink a pot of coffee, the biggest sin that you could commit is adding more water and letting that percolate through your old coffee grounds. That is like, you just don't do that. Okay? Because now your coffee is going to taste like bad, dirty, weak tea. And that's just, it's just highly unacceptable. You just don't do that. Okay? Where the Takumi really shines, okay, is more in illustration work. Okay? When you need fine precision, small amounts of paints, you can go in there, erase them for some highlights, go back in, cover it up a little bit, go back in with an eraser. That's where the precision of an Iwata Takumi really, really shines. Okay, and I am so much looking forward to after the Christmas crunch. Okay, I've got 2 t-shirts to do for my grandkids, and 1 more shirt to do for my stepson, and then I'm going to be able to get into doing some creepier stuff. Okay, and I look forward to it, and I hope you guys look forward to watching that as well. But again, take in consideration the size artwork that you're doing, and realize you may not need a detailed airbrush, or if you're on a limited budget, man, this right here, the Evolution, is my recommendation. You got 1 airbrush, multiple nozzles, and needle setups for it. The other great thing for a beginner, it has a drop-in nozzle, not a screw-in like on most of the Iwatas, but a drop-in nozzle. It's very beginner friendly. Okay, it's I think a lot of beginners. There's not a lot, but the parts on these, once you start taking it apart, are kind of small, and especially on the Iwatas, they have a screw-in nozzle. You go and screw that thing, it's like smaller than a grain of rice, and they may intimidate some beginners. But with a drop-in nozzle, it's very user-friendly. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video, and the next time we'll get into more breaking down some of these airbrushes and showing you the pieces and the parts of them. And I also have another quick tip. I messed up. The t-shirt that I did for my stepson, the half-work barbarian, I tape the bottom of the shirts that I'm airbrushing to the masonite, and I heat set it, and it won't come off the shirt. So fortunately, my wife knows how to sew, so she's going to re-hem it for me. And I did the same mistake on my grandson's shirt, so I had to go out and buy a new shirt to do his piece. So I'm going to do a Godzilla for him. He's just getting into Godzilla, so it'll be a fun shirt to do, and it'll be another how to prep a black t-shirt. It's different from doing than a white one, because transparent colors won't show up on a black t-shirt. You got to lay your white down first. So it'll be another how-to video. But anyway, you guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing, and I appreciate you guys so much. Have a good night.